Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas, and tonight we have another This Week in SEC Basketball. It's coming to you a day early. I've got a trip tomorrow, but I still wanted to get all this out for you guys. We'll be recapping all of the midweek games and then previewing every game that will take place on Saturday. So let's get straight into it, starting off with the Tuesday midweeks. First off, Vandy went to Auburn and won a game I thought they were going to lose. Admittedly, I had picked Auburn in this game, but it was 84-76 Vandy. It's a big-time win for the Commodores. I was worried about their size, and they did get out-rebounded by 9, did Vandy. I think they really had the horses down low to compete with Auburn on the glass, and they necessarily didn't. But I was also concerned about how they were going to shoot, how that offense was going to carry over on the road, and they shot very, very well. Tyler Turner had 25, Jalen Washington gave him 22. For Auburn, it was a good game for Taha Pettiford. He had 21 points. It was on just 7 of 18 from the field, so you do want some more efficiency there. Maybe it was a bit of a hangover for Auburn overall. Just after that Bama game, you got beat at home by your rival. Big game. Just sort of still that, even though, normally think of hangovers after wins, but even after a loss, that emotional letdown can still exist there and get you. And now Auburn, they go on the road to Arkansas this weekend. We'll get into that game later. That's pretty big for their tournament hopes. But Vanderbilt got a big road win at Auburn. Another team won on the road on Tuesday. It was not quite as intense. Arkansas went to LSU and won 91-62. There's not much analysis needed here from me. I mean, we had LSU's band calling the Hogs towards the end of that game. It was bad. 28 for Darius Acuff, 20 for Thomas, just 10 bench points for Arkansas, but they didn't need a whole lot of help. LSU shot 31%. Arkansas was up at 56, 64 to 34 points in the paint in favor of Arkansas. Just dominant for the Hogs, and they look like a tournament team now more than ever. Moving on to Wednesday's game, starting off with Florida at Georgia, 86-66 Gators. This Florida team is just in full force right now. They were dominant on both sides. Everything was run right. Xavier Lee scored 18 points. Could he be getting warm? Because it's very clear watching both the Vanderbilt game, now this Georgia game, and just watching the way he shoots the ball. He's a great shooter who just isn't shooting great. And the funny thing about percentages is that they always seem to level out. So if he gets hot down the stretch here, Florida becomes even more dangerous. And it wasn't a good day for Thomas Houck for Florida either, but the team is so deep that it didn't really matter. Georgia, they were down their top scorer in Wilkinson for this game, but Blue Can had a good day with 17. The Gators just won that rebound battle. Santos Real for the second straight game. He didn't actually get to play this one against Florida, but he was really outmatched by the Gators' bigs. I mean, because Florida won the rebound battle, they had more points in the paint, they had more points off turnovers, and they shot 38% from deep. If that number is consistent, Florida will not lose again all the way through April. They just won't. If that number is down to like 33 or 34, like it actually might, like it probably will be more likely, they'll probably a Final Four team. Not sure if they'll win it all, but this Gators team, if they start finding any consistency from deep, look out. Look out. The other early game on Wednesday, Bama went to Ole Miss and won 93-74. I put this game on upset alert. I picked Ole Miss. And for the first half, I looked pretty smart. Second half, I looked really, really dumb. Bama had 61 points in the second half. They had 4 starters in double figures. Latrell Wrightsell had 21 points off the bench, which led the team last night. Bama just found it from deep again, which they needed because they yet again lost the battle down low. They were outscored by Ole Miss in the paint 36-16, but that's just kind of how this Bama team plays. They're very dependent, obviously, on that three-point shot, and when it falls like it was last night, it's great. When it's not, you can see them just really look bad, and look out of sync. But they were in it last night, which was big. They made 26 shots at Bama. 17 of them were threes. They got to the line 26 times and made 24 also. That was a massive disparity. The Tyrone last night, they showed what they can do when they're in a rhythm. And for Ole Miss, the whole year just hasn't been what they thought. It was disappointing to start. Then they had the ice storm that had them play 4 straight games on the road. It just hasn't been good. It has not been good for the Rebels, and we'll get into their game against Mississippi State here later. But one of the late games, the first late game from last night on Wednesday was Tennessee at Mississippi State, 73-64 Vols. State made it a little more interesting in the second half than I thought that they would. But Tennessee was able to keep them at arm's length and out of reach. Nate Amick, Jacoby Gillespie led Tennessee again with 16 and 18 points respectively. Josh Hubbard, for State, man, he did all that he could. He scored 31 points. He was 4 of 9 from deep. Tennessee just ran down low. They dominated that paint, 45-31 in the rebound battle, 42-24 points in the paint. The Vols have one of the best front courts in the SEC and arguably the country also, and they showed that in this game against Mississippi State. So the Vols are now 7-4 in SEC play. Mississippi State down to 3-8, but probably what was the best game of last night and really of these midweeks? Missouri at Texas A&M, 86-85 Missouri. The Tigers only played 7 guys. which was really just more noticeable given how much deeper the Aggies' rotation was, and also the fact that Mark Mitchell didn't really do too much. He only scored 9 points, but he did have 8 assists. Trent Pierce put up 23, T.O. Barrett with 17 for the Tigers. A&M, they came out in the first half, and they really shot their way back to the mean from what we saw in their Florida game, where they couldn't make anything. But then in the second half, they fell off again. The consistency from their shooting just really isn't there. Zach Clemens was able to give them 20 off the bench, but 3 starters gave them 8 or fewer points. It's really not encouraging for A&M to shoot 30 plus threes at home, make 45% of them, and lose. I mean, they were out rebounded by 13. They were doubled up on paint points. It was 58 to 26. Or sorry, my math's wrong. That's more than doubled up. I thought it was 56-28. Let me know. But they were absolutely crushed in points in the paint. I'm out on A&M. I'm out. It's a bunch of undersized linebackers and inconsistent shooting. And I do like physical play, but you have to have actual good basketball players off of that. A&M just doesn't. They're too small for to really be as physical as they want to be. The shooting is off. I'm out on them. You know, they had that good run, but it's a lot like their football team, where it was a lot of wins against not the good teams in the league. Now they're playing the tournament teams in the SEC. They've lost 3 straight. In Missouri, they get a big win for their bubble hopes, and we'll get into their game on Saturday later here. It's the last one of the preview. That is a massive bubble showdown. But going on to the previews now for Saturday, we're still here with the Aggies. They go to Vanderbilt. Like I said, I don't like them. I just don't like A&M very much. They're too small. They just hit you, but they're not big enough to really capitalize when they're being that physical on you. And Vandy is also small. They're also a pretty undersized team, but they're full of hoopers. You know, I mean, Tyler Tanner is unbelievable. They're full of really good basketball players to sort of make up for that lack of size, and A&M's just not. Desperation can be a factor for me for the Aggies having lost 3 straight, but in my mind, a desperation-driven win would have come on Wednesday. You know, it would have come at home against a Missouri team who you really should be better than at home after losing back-to-back. I'm not sure you get a desperation win on the road against a Vandy team who, you know, they beat Auburn, but they lost to Oklahoma in the last home game. They're not going to be sleepwalking into this at all. They're like, this will not be let up for the doors in these slides. I think Tyler Tanner is going to be the best guard on the court by a lot in this one. I think Vandy pretty comfortably here. And the second game on Saturday, it's the big one. Kentucky goes to Gainesville. Some juice in this game is beautiful when Kentucky and Florida play each other. Wildcats are ranked 25th, 8-3 in the SEC. The Gators are top 15, absolutely rolling, 9-2 atop the SEC. Denzel Aberdeen, this is the biggest storyline of the game. He's back in Gainesville, first game against his former team. Him and Otega Oweh are going to go a long way in deciding this game, because I'm very confident, again, as should everybody, I think, that Florida is going to win this game down low. You know, the bigs for the Gators are going to outplay the bigs for the Wildcats. So can those two, Oweh and Aberdeen, along with Chandler, beat Florida's guards enough to offset what I think will be Florida's winning down low? You know, Otega is red hot. He has 20 plus points in his last 5 games. For Denzel Aberdeen, how will the emotions factor into his play? You know, it is going to be emotional for him. He's coming back to the school that he won a title with for the first game. He's in Gainesville. The student section is going to be very aware that he's there. We'll see how that impacts how he plays. In the Wildcats, they've won 3 straight games. They have had the whole week after another comeback win versus Tennessee to get ready for this one. I don't think I care. Florida is the best team in this conference by 10 points on a neutral floor, and that place is going to be crazy on Saturday. The O-Dome will be. The line came out today. Florida is favored by 11.5 right now. Like, this game isn't even really supposed to be close. It's a pretty good spectacle with some good storylines. I think the Gators lean on them and win by a decent bit. Moving on now, the rest of our previews here. Georgia goes to Oklahoma. Georgia just got thrashed at home by the Gators. They've lost 4 or 5, and Oklahoma has been close a lot. And they finally got over that hump, beat Vandy last Saturday, and they're coming off a bye during the midweek. The Sooners are a better team than 12-12 overall and 2-9 in the SEC. They're not good, but they're better than that. And Georgia, they're going the wrong way and fast. Can they be desperate here and get a win for tournament reasons, right? Because they're now starting to really flirt with the bubble. They were like a 7 or 8 at times. They're starting to flirt with, you know, we need to win games or we're in trouble with this bracket. So can they play a level up? This really comes down to me is if Wilkins is going to play or not. If he comes back, I do think Georgia gets it done in as close as you can be to a gotta have it spot. If he's out, I think they drop another one, because that Georgia offense did not look comfortable at all against Florida. Now, granted, Oklahoma is not bringing the same defense as Florida did. I'm worried about him without Jeremiah, though. So if Wilkinson is in, Georgia wins. If he's out, I like the Sooners. This is a game that you should not let your kids watch. LSU goes to Tennessee. Tennessee is rounding into form. They had a really good bounce back at Mississippi State after that loss at Kentucky. And LSU, they just got pummeled by Arkansas at home. Now they have to fly to Knoxville. I don't have many more notes on this game. That's actually all I've got. Tennessee by 15 at least. This game should be over decently quick. Egg Bowl of basketball here. Mississippi State goes to Ole Miss. Does the rivalry status of this game bring some juice into this between two teams who are both 11 and 13 overall and 3 and 8 in the SEC? Like I said, Ole Miss played with Bama for a half, then they got run out of their own building. And State did give Tennessee a little bit of a scare in the second half of that game, but they just couldn't keep up. I think the Bulldogs are going to need another great game out of Josh Hubbard if they want to go steal this one. You know, he had 31 against Tennessee. So could this be the start of a hot streak for Josh Hubbard? Or will he kind of regress to the mean here and maybe he'll give him like 13? You know, I think that's really going to go a long way in deciding this game. Ole Miss, like I said before, they've had a major letdown of a year. How hard are they still fighting? They haven't won a home game since January 10th versus Missouri. Now, part of it is because they got scheduled onto the road because of the ice storm, but they have had multiple home games since then to pick up a win, and they just haven't. You have to get another one at some point. You just do, right? I mean, they're not going to lose out at home, right? We'll see, I guess, but I do think that they'll have to get another one. I think they'll do it here. Give me Ole Miss to beat Mississippi State at home on Saturday. Auburn goes to Arkansas. And Tigers, they have just got to pick up a win at some point. 3 straight losses, and this is a big shot at a resume win here for Stephen Pearl and the Tigers because the bubble, same thing with Georgia, it's catching up to Auburn pretty quick. So for this game, to try and pull this upset, can they limit Darius Acuff? He's putting up 20.8 per game. You just got to make someone else beat you. And on the other side, it's kind of the same thing with Arkansas. Can they make someone other than Keyshawn Hall beat them? Because Keyshawn Hall is also scoring more than 20 a game, and he only scored 13 at home against Vanderbilt during the midweek. Can he bounce back? You know, will he come out inspired and have a really, really good game? I do believe that Auburn is good enough to be a tournament team. And if that is true, this is the kind of win they need to get. So I'm going to go with Auburn here. I think they can pull the upset on the road against Coach Cal. Give me Auburn over Arkansas. Please don't make me look dumb because I think I'm afraid I might. But anyways, another game that you should not show your children. South Carolina goes to Alabama. Bama finally found their stroke this week. They got into a bit of a rhythm. Meechie Johnson would have to put up 35 in this game for Carolina to have any chance. That's how they're going to roll. This is another game I don't have much notes for. Give me the Crimson Tide at home to roll over South Carolina. And then one of the biggest bubble games we might get in this conference all year. Texas goes to Missouri. This is the final game on Saturday. Huge bubble game. Texas, they're listed as a team who's in the last 4 in. They had a bye this week. And Missouri, before this is not factoring in their win at A&M. We'll get that factored in tomorrow morning from Lenardi. They were in the first 4 out. So they were just right there on the outside looking in. Texas was in without much margin for error. In the net, Texas is 38th. Missouri is 57th. So that tells you that the Tigers need this game a lot more. Like it's much more important for Missouri to pick up this win for their tourney hopes. Both teams are top 4 in the SEC in rebounding margin. They're top 3 in the SEC in field goal percentage. Like it's really hard to find a discrepancy on the stat sheet between these two. That's why we play the games on the hardwood. You know, I mean, we could get to Election Sunday and the last spot, you know, going to Dayton for the 11 seeds could just be between these two teams. And we look at the result of this game on Valentine's Day as who keeps going and whose season is over. This game is that important. It's not going to have a lot of eyes, no ranked teams. I'm not sure that most of the general public could name more than 3 players in this game on both teams. This game is huge for the bracket. Both teams have won 3 straights. They're both clicking at the right time. This game being in Missouri matters to me because that is an underrated home court advantage when they have a reason to get up and you get a Saturday night. You get a game that could determine your bracket status. Give me the Tigers at home to beat Texas and get a massive win for the tournament resume. And that'll do it. That is the recap for the midweek and the preview for this Valentine's Day slate of SEC basketball. I hope you guys enjoyed this preview content. If you haven't enjoyed my basketball stuff, my portal stuff, everything I'm trying to do, please subscribe to me here and follow me on Twitter. I've been Will Thomas, and I will see you next time.